Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's October 9th, 2018, and today I'm going to be transplanting a tree that's a flowering crabapple tree that's, geez, about a dozen years old now. And it's probably 9 feet tall, and these flowering crabapple trees have a pretty wide top to them, narrow trunk, but wide canopy, and they have a pretty decent root mass as well. So I'm going to be using Bumblebee, the piece of equipment behind me, my mini excavator, and there are a couple of challenges with transplanting this tree, and it may not be successful. I may damage it enough, and I've damaged enough trees where they weren't successful. However, the more of the trees that I do transplanting with, that I do transplant, the more success I ultimately do have. But I'm going to share with you a couple of the challenges with transplanting this tree. So as I mentioned, it's probably 8 or 9 feet tall, and when we dig it out and we dig around the root mass, it's even taller, if you will, probably 10, 11 feet tall. And one of the challenges is, well, what piece of equipment are you using to excavate, to move this tree out? So the first thing I'll mention is there are 2 buckets, and I've got them side by side down there, and I did shoot a little GoPro footage, so I'll be showing that. So we have a tooth bucket, which is the digging bucket. That's the one that digs down into the earth, and that's called the excavation bucket. And the other bucket is called a grading bucket, and it doesn't have teeth on it. It's smooth, it's wider, and it holds more earth, or it could actually hold a root ball a little bit more easily. So I'll be bringing both of those buckets up with me. But as you can see, while there's the part that actually does the work on the excavator, the part that we see moving around. So there's this part right up behind me here, the part that is the boom, which extends from the cab, and the boom goes up and down, and then there's the part that's called the dipping stick, which holds the bucket at the end. And the size of the mini excavator, well, this is a mini excavator, but the size of the excavator, the piece of equipment you're using, you need to take into account, well, when that bucket is down in the earth, what's the height of the boom? Is that going to crush the plant? Or when the stick comes in, is it going to rip the branches? And yes, we are going to have some damage to this tree as a result. Now, could I go ahead and do pruning beforehand? Well, I could. So I'm just a little over 6 foot tall, and you can see with the bucket sitting on the surface of the ground, it's just above my head, probably 6'3", 6'4". But this bucket will be down underneath the surface of the earth, so that'll bring it down to, just about 6 foot, 5'11" is what I'm guessing, right around there. So this part here, this heavy steel part, is going to crush down on the canopy of the tree. So that's something to be thinking about when you're choosing a piece of equipment, or you're renting a piece of equipment to move trees around, or you're having someone come in. This is what I've got, so I'm going to deal with what I have to deal with. As I do damage, I'll do appropriate pruning afterwards. So this is a small excavator, but it can move some pretty good sizes of equipment. The distance that you're moving is also an issue, and how even the ground is, or smooth it is. As you're going up and down, I'll be going through some spillways, so the excavator will be going up and down. So it's bumpy. I'll be losing earth off of the dirt from around the root ball, so more roots will be exposed. So it's really important that I have everything planned out ahead of time. So let's go up to the site where we're going to be transplanting this tree to, or at least trying to get this tree transplanted to. I apologize for any wind sounds. Unfortunately, it's gotten a bit windy here. I'm up by pond 2. That's pond 2 behind me here, the circular pond that drains down into the soil collecting canal system just down over the bank down here. All right, so to orient you, the direction directly behind me is to the east, is to the west, and the direction behind me now is to the east. So to my left, or to the right of the screen, is where the south side of the pond is. Now, this flowering crabapple isn't going to offer a lot of shade, but it will offer some shade. So the place that I'm going to be putting the flowering crabapple is right about where I'm standing right now. And this is a spot where that huge rock pile was for so many years that I removed all the rocks. I built the spillway entrance coming from the drainage swale going around the property, going into Pond 5. I'll put a link to that video in the upper right hand corner. And the retaining the stone feature going along the hugelkultur terrace, which is right over behind me down in there by the compost pile. So I'm planning on transplanting that flowering crabapple to right where I'm standing right now. The soil is terrible here. The only things that are starting here are some of the horsetail, and there have been asters and what else has been here? Some ragweed, some goldenrod that were here intermixed amongst all the boulders that were here. And the boulder pile was much higher than the top of my head. And when taking out all those boulders from there, there's a depression in the soil, not from the weight of the boulders, but as I'm digging them out, I'm taking some earth with me. And so this earth is all stuff that was underground, that was all the sandy type material that came from the ponds. So I'm standing in an area that has a 1-foot depression next to a pond, that the roadway right there where Pepe is about 24 inches above where I'm standing right now. But where this maple is just a few feet behind me here, that's a foot higher. So I'm about a foot lower than that spot. So when we get good heavy rains, the rain could come off that driveway and sit here. And that's a problem if we're going to be transplanting trees into a location. You need to make sure that those roots aren't going to get saturated. The good news is the pond's right there, so I could, if I wanted to maintain the soil level as it is, I could just dig out a small little spillway from where the tree root ball would be here, so when it rains, the water wouldn't sit here. It'd run right down and into the pond. So that's one option. The other option is stilling some soil from adjacent right over here, which would make a wet spot there, but as I get more material, I could go ahead and fill in that area. So that's one thing to be thinking about is, what's the tree going to be? How's it going to function? How's it going to fit into your landscape? Are you putting it into a place that's going to be a problem, such as a low spot where the water's going to sit around, saturate the roots, they aren't going to get the oxygen that they need? Have you mitigated that problem by putting in an appropriate drainage swale or bringing in more fill to raise up the area as well? Another thing to think about is, how easy is it going to be to maintain the tree? So that if this is a nut tree, let's say I am going to be transplanting a smaller oak tree, which the nut trees have big, deep tap roots. So I'll make a video about that. So if they're going to be dropping their fruit or their nuts or heavy leaf loads, where do you want those? How easy is it to take care of whatever's there? Are you going to have trouble harvesting those fruit or nuts? Is it going to be getting enough sunlight to help ripen them and enough airflow as well? So those are things to think about. The other thing is, I'm pretty high here compared to over there to the west of us, and our winter winds come out of the west and really hit hard and can blow everything over. So if I build up the soil right here, am I creating, with this wider canopy, creating inviting a force to do more destruction and tip the tree over as well? So those are all things to think about. Also, are you going to be mowing around it? Are you going to be wanting to get in and mulch around it or put other companion plants around it? Do you have enough room in the area as well? Those are all things to think about, and I've made all the mistakes in the past. So I speak from experience of looking out for how I'm going to maintain it How safe will it be around? Will it be putting materials into a pond like nuts or berries or fruit in there, or am I going to be reaching up to harvest it and risk falling into the pond as well? All things to be thinking about. Let's go look at the tree that I want to transplant. Okay, I'm up near pond 1, near the top of the property, near our roadway as well, which is just in front of me behind the camera there. And I'm standing next to the flowering crabapple that I want to transplant. Now, you may not be able to see them, but there are other flowering crabapples all along just on the other side of Pepe behind me there. And this one was right over here, but I put in the roadway where Pepe is sitting now, and this would have gotten knocked every time I brought a load in because of the height of it. And now that I look at it, it's probably, the top of the branches are probably about 11 feet tall, and when I have the bucket down in the ground, it's going to be under 5 feet tall. So it's going to be a real challenge getting this puppy out of here. So I'll turn around and you could see this is the tree behind me here. Let's see if we can go up there. And I don't know if you could see, that probably isn't working the greatest. Maybe if I walk away some. We're just in one of these cubby holes where I stuck it off to the side, but one of the problems is just to the right of the screen from this tree over here is the low spot, and it ends up being a natural spillway for pond 1. And that's why a couple of the trees and bushes that I'd put around this end of the pond, I didn't realize it was the natural spillway. So as the water comes off the road and fills this pond, as it works down the slope of the property, it fills up this pond. Instead of feeding back through the swale systems, the swale systems feed into this. Even from down the roadways, it feeds up into this pond, and then it goes off into the woods. So that's another project I've got, is to create swale systems that feed another pond in the woods, but that's another subject for another day. So the goal today is to come in here, use the excavating bucket to dig on both sides of it without destroying the tree by letting the boom beat the dickens out of this. Now, chances are, since it's fall, if I really prune this back really heavy, it's going to come back and do okay if I do everything else right. But chances are everything else isn't going to go right. This is real bumpy, the roadway that we've got to go down there. So I'm going to get started. Let's see if this does work out. Wish me luck. Well, I just used Bumblebee to excavate out the hole up here. I did find one small boulder that I used for the retaining wall for the hugelkultur terrace. And I put one scoop of compost down in there and then mix that around. Again, this is a low area, so I didn't want to go too deep down in here, and I'd rather build it up. I brought a couple of front-end loads of wood chips in an area that I had lots of some bindweed and lots of goldenrod and some ragweed in there, and I needed to get that material out. I pulled out the bulk of the roots and the base of the plants. But when it's around a single trunk tree, if it's in the upper surface area, I can just mow that down or put a weed mat over that so that it doesn't completely overtake everything. But that's decomposing wood chips and that material there that's a few years old, 2 years old that is. So let's go see if we can get that tree up. Well, I just finished getting the flowering crabapple back in the ground. Pretty happy with how things turned out. So first thing I did was I went ahead and dug out the hole approximately the size that I thought I'd be cutting the earth to at the site where the tree was. And I dug it down a little bit deeper. I had to pull one small boulder out and use that in the retaining wall for the hugelkultur terrace. Excuse me. And then I added a good scoop of compost, the greater bucket full of compost, and stirred that around in the base of the hole where the tree was going to be deposited. Then I went out back, scraped off the surface material off around the crabapple tree. And then I went ahead and switched buckets to the excavating bucket because I was using the grading bucket to do those things. With the excavating bucket, I went ahead and cut out basically a square or a slight rectangular shaped base to try and include as much of the root mass as possible. It's pretty sandy and bony ground over there. But I was able to cut a nice area that I thought I'd be able to, with the front blade of the excavator and the grading bucket, be able to pick it up and move it out of there. You can see the height of the tree is much larger than what the mini excavator, the boom and the stick can handle. So there was a little bit of damage to the tree. But you can see how I went ahead. Hopefully the GoPro footage will show up. And I was able to get down underneath it. Then I used one of those cargo straps, a light duty one, to go ahead and attach it to the stick, which is the vertical part. I attached it a little bit too low, so the tree started falling over. I detached it, then went up and attached it right where the little trifurcation is for the where the main trunk breaks into three main limbs, and tied it off there to a higher point where the stick and the boom attach together. With it being attached to all three, that kept it from sliding when I went to pick it up. I did lose quite a bit of soil because it is sandy and gravelly soil, so the perimeter of the material left. Some bounced off on my way over, bringing it back here because I had to go up and down through some drainage swales going into the pond one. And got it over here, set it down into the area, went and got some compost, filled in around the perimeter of the root ball. I did trim off one root. A lot of the roots I will typically prune off anything that looks damaged at all. I only ended up pruning off one damaged root. There were a couple that had splits in them. But whenever we're putting a limb in a tree in a high wind zone, I want to get those roots extended out as far as possible, get them covered. They act more of a secure anchor, and with the motion of the tree, they'll send out roots pretty darn quick. During this winter months, they'll send out some more roots, and next spring. So I went ahead, set her down, pruned off the one root, put in backfilled with some fresh compost from the compost pile, then went ahead and used some of the other material to start creating my berm around, packed it down as I went with the bucket and with my feet along the way, then went ahead and got some wood chips, took several loads of wood chips to get around the circumference of the surface of the root ball mound, and I think it turned out pretty well. I did have to prune off one dead limb, probably from when I transplanted the tree a couple of years ago. But I think it's going to take. We'll have to see. We'll give you a progress report next summer and see how it does. So that's it for this video. If you found this of value or informative, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, hit that bell icon if you want to be notified when we post more videos. Feel free to ask questions and leave comments. That always makes it more enjoyable, an interaction with the community. And thanks so much, folks, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye now.